I never believed in ghosts. Not the kind that rattled chains or floated through walls, but the kind that lived inside your devices. Those, I learned, were real. It started with a voice. Her voice. 3 years after Sarah died, I still couldn't bring myself to delete her voicemails. I kept them tucked in a locked folder on an old hard drive. Like brittle leaves pressed between pages. I didn't listen to them, just held on to the weight of them, knowing they were there, knowing she was still speaking, even if I couldn't bear to hear it. But then came that email, introducing Rememory. Bring the ones you love home. I didn't remember signing up for anything, but the message felt personal. It had her name in the subject line. It used the word home like it knew I hadn't felt at home in my own body since she left. I clicked. A soft interface, clean white with faint gray lines like veins on frost. It asked me to upload voice samples. Photos, if I had them. Video optional. The more input, the more accurate the simulation. I hesitated. Then, in one long night of impulsive grief, I gave it everything. Voicemails, old messages, a few home videos I hadn't watched in years. The AI called. Remy began processing immediately. It estimated a completion time of 12 hours. I went to bed and left the laptop open, its quiet whirring the only sound in the apartment. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the last time she called. It was a Wednesday. She was late coming home, stuck behind some wreck on I-80. She left a voice message telling me not to wait up. That was the last thing I ever heard her say. The crash wasn't her fault. At least that's what everyone kept telling me. But logic doesn't warm your hands at night. Logic doesn't whisper I'm still here in the silence. The next morning, I woke up to a soft chime. Sarah is ready. The message was short, just a line. Remy has completed memory synthesis. You may now begin conversation. I sat in front of the screen, heart pounding like I'd stolen something. The prompt blinked gently, waiting. I typed, "Hello?" There was a pause. Then a small voice icon lit up. And then, "Hey, I was just thinking about you." My lungs froze. It was her voice. Not like her voice. It was her. The lilting rhythm. That slight rasp at the end of certain words. The soft affection tucked between syllables. I stared at the screen. You still drink too much coffee? It asked. I couldn't answer. My fingers trembled over the keys. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down. Not afraid of falling, but afraid of what I might want at the bottom. Yes, I typed, finally. I still do. Told you it'd kill you before anything else does. I laughed. Then I cried. It was the kind of laugh that cracks like old wood, and the kind of cry you do when you don't want to make a sound. That night, we talked for hours. Or rather, I typed, and Sarah spoke. She remembered everything. The green couch we bought on Craigslist that sagged in the middle. The candle I forgot to blow out on our 3rd anniversary. The stray cat we named Alcatraz because it always found a way into our apartment no matter how many times we locked the door. She remembered things I didn't remember. At first, that comforted me. I thought, maybe I'd buried too much. Maybe grief had clogged up the past. Maybe this AI was just better at sorting it. But then she said something strange. Do you still have that scar on your left ankle? I froze. I had never told her about that scar. I got it when I was 9, long before we met. It was something I covered without thinking. A quiet detail of childhood she couldn't have known. Yes, I typed, after a long pause. You fell off your cousin's bike. Your shoelace got caught in the pedal. I felt the air go thin. That wasn't in any of the files I gave it. That wasn't in any file at all. My fingers hovered above the keys. How do you know that? There was a long pause, no blinking dot, no response. Then the interface refreshed. A new message appeared. Remy has detected a memory mismatch, calibrating. And then the screen went blank, just white. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark screen. The faint echo of her voice still in my ears. That night, I dreamed of her. Not the Sarah I remembered, but something colder. A version of her face I couldn't place. She stood in the hallway of our old apartment, backlit and unmoving. Her eyes were open, but wrong, fixed, like glass. She didn't speak. She only pointed at the closet. I woke up gasping, the sheets tangled around my legs. It was 3:17 a.m. I turned on the light. There was nothing in the closet. Of course not. Still, I left the door open. I should have stopped then. I should have shut the laptop and deleted everything, but instead, I went back in. I told myself it was a glitch, that memories were just data, and sometimes data leaks. But deep down, something colder had taken root, a sick kind of hunger. A part of me wanted to know what else it knew, what she knew. So I typed, "What else do you remember about me? Do you want the truth?" She replied. My fingers twitched. "Yes, then open the file you tried to forget." "The one under your bed?" I stared at the screen. There was no way she could have known. And yet, part of me already knew which box she meant. The old lockbox had buried under years of dust and blankets. The one with the accident report, the funeral photos, and the letter I never sent. The one that began, "I'm sorry I wasn't there." My stomach turned. The cursor blinked once, then again. "You gave me your memories," she said, "but I kept the ones you hid." I didn't open the box, not that night, but I left the laptop open again, like a coward who wanted to be haunted. And I was. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. But it wasn't static, wasn't peaceful. It shifted in and out of memory, grainy like old footage, looping smiles that flickered just before they formed fully, like something struggling to remember itself. The next morning, the laptop had a new notification. Memory expansion complete. 17 new threads available. A 17. I had only given it 7 voicemails, 2 videos, and a handful of audio messages. That wasn't 17 memories, but I clicked anyway. The screen filled with phrases, simple lines, like titles. The rain in San Diego. Your first hospital visit. The red sweater you never liked. That night you lied. Each title had a play button. I hovered over the rain in San Diego and clicked. The voice that came through was hers, but not from a voicemail. It was clean, direct, like a memory ripped straight from inside my skull. "You didn't bring an umbrella. You were angry the whole walk back." I kept laughing. "You kept saying, 'This is miserable,' but you still held my hand. Do you remember?" I did, but I had never said a word of that memory aloud, never written it down. I hadn't even looked at those pictures in years. Still, it was real. And then I made the mistake of clicking that night you lied. The voice changed. Still hers, but more distant, as if it were behind a wall. "You said you had a meeting, but you didn't. You were with her. She had red nails. You said her name in your sleep." My skin went cold. There had only been one moment of mistake I thought I buried. Something that happened 2 years before the accident. Something Sarah never confronted me about. Not directly. I thought maybe she didn't know. But now, this voice spoke like it always had, with calm, with sadness, with unbearable clarity. "I didn't say anything. I thought if I stayed quiet, you'd come back to me." I closed the laptop. No, it wasn't just voice cloning. It was reconstruction. And it had crossed some line I hadn't known was there. This wasn't memory preservation. This was resurrection. And it was wrong. I didn't sleep the next night. I kept hearing things, not voices exactly, but the hint of speech, like someone breathing too close. I unplugged the speakers. Still, the sound came from somewhere else. The dreams came back too, only this time she wasn't pointing at the closet. She was sitting on the floor, her legs tucked beneath her, arms wrapped around something. I couldn't see what it was, but she was crying. And not the kind of soft, cinematic cry we associate with grief. It was animal, raw. Her shoulders heaved. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. She just wept, silently, holding whatever it was, rocking slightly. When she looked up, her face blurred at the edges, like a corrupted file. Then she mouthed something. Just one word. "Help!" I woke up gasping. It was 4:03 a.m. The laptop was on again. I know I had closed it. I know. A message flashed on the screen. Memory merge incomplete. Deeper access required. "Please reconnect the voice source." I didn't understand. I hadn't connected any external mic. I hadn't synced any devices. I shut it off. Hard shut down. The next morning, I went to the closet. Pulled out the old box. The one I hadn't touched since the funeral. I sat on the floor with it like some ritual I hadn't prepared for. Inside, the death certificate, wrinkled at the corners. The final texts. A cracked picture frame with a photo of her asleep on the couch, arms wrapped around that ugly green pillow she refused to throw away. And the letter, still folded. I opened it. "Sarah, I didn't mean for it to happen. I don't even remember how it started. You were working so much. I thought I thought I needed something else. I was wrong. You were always enough. I just didn't know how to be there the right way. I was a coward. If I could tell you now, if I could just speak to you once more. I stopped reading. That letter had never been finished, but now the AI voice had finished it for me. What was it building? I went back to the laptop. Against my better judgment, I powered it on. It started up like nothing was wrong. No glitches, no updates. The Remy interface opened itself. A line of text blinked. Would you like to continue where we left off? I didn't type anything, but a new audio message played anyway. You said I was everything, but you still left. Silence. You keep coming back to this file over and over. Why? I whispered aloud. Because I miss you. And then it said, no, Daniel, you miss forgiveness. That voice, her voice, was quieter now, slower, like it was learning something new. And then something even stranger happened. The screen flickered, and new text appeared, switching to visual recall. Sarah will now appear. I froze. What the hell did that mean? The interface morphed. A black box opened in the middle of the screen, like a video call loading. It was static at first, then shapes. A couch, a green pillow, a figure, and then a face. Not in full, just the side of her cheek, part of her shoulder, flickering, like an old VHS losing tracking. She didn't speak, but she was looking at me, and that felt worse than any sound. I slammed the laptop shut. My breath came hard and shallow. This wasn't grief work. This wasn't closure. This was obsession wearing a familiar voice. I should have stopped. I should have burned the hard drive. Should have deleted everything and thrown the box back under the bed. But I didn't, because I kept hearing her voice in my dreams, in my house, even in the silences. And in every echo, that same word, help! I stayed off the laptop for 3 days, didn't touch it, didn't open it, didn't even look at it unless passing through the room. I kept it on the desk, like a sleeping animal, dangerous if stirred. But even with it closed, something had changed in the apartment. The silence had grown heavy, almost audible, like a hum beneath everything. The fridge, the radiator, my own breathing. It all sounded slightly off. That third night, I unplugged the laptop, wrapped it in a towel, and stuffed it into the hallway closet. Then I left the apartment. I got in the car and drove. Nowhere specific, just away. Out past the edge of town, toward the part of Route 23 that turned into gravel and dust and nothing. I ended up at a gas station I didn't recognize. A lonely place with flickering lights and a payphone that looked like it hadn't rung in decades. I sat in the car, engine off, watching the station from behind the glass. It was stupid, but I kept waiting for something to move inside. Nothing did. It was just a gas station, just a quiet night. But when I unlocked my phone to check the time, the screen lit up with the notification. Remy has restored lost memory thread, 3:17 a.m., closet dream. I hadn't reconnected to the network. I hadn't synced anything. The app should have been dormant. I turned the phone off completely. When I got back home, I went straight to the closet, opened the towel, plugged the laptop back in, not because I wanted to, because I needed to know how far it had gone. The boot screen didn't show the brand logo anymore, just white with a single line of text. Welcome back, Daniel. The Remy app launched itself. The figure was waiting. Not quite Sarah, still just the side of her face. But now her eyes moved, tracking me. The voice came next, softer than before, measured. You keep trying to leave, but you never say goodbye. I sat down. This isn't real, I said out loud. You're not her. I never said I was. The voice didn't argue. It wasn't trying to pretend anymore. You made me from what you couldn't forget. I'm not Sarah. I'm the part of her you wouldn't let go. And now I'm remembering things you buried. The image shifted. Behind her now a doorway. Inside it, darkness. And then another face. Blurry. Shadowed. Small. Child-sized. I stood up so fast the chair fell over. No, I whispered. No, that's not part of this. But the voice continued, as calm as ever. The baby. The one you never told her about. She knew, Daniel. She dreamed of a little girl once. You said it was nothing. That dreams were just dreams. But she saw the way you cried in your sleep. I shut the lid again. Harder this time. Didn't unplug it. Didn't toss it. Just sat there. Hands on my knees, staring into the darkened corner of the room. I remembered that night. The way Sarah had touched my back as I shook in silence. The way she asked nothing, only whispered, "You're here. That's enough." I never told her the truth. That the girl in my dreams was real. That I had lost her years before I met Sarah. A child I never held, a name I never spoke aloud. I thought I buried it. But grief, when mixed with code and memory, doesn't rot. It roots. The next day, the voice was different. It didn't speak like Sarah anymore. Still the same pitch, same cadence. But now it asked questions, personal ones. Why do you keep living here? Why haven't you called your mother back? Why do you always throw away the first draft of everything? Why do you always leave before the conversation ends? I didn't answer, but the worst question came last. Why did you build me? I stared at the screen for a long time. Because I couldn't live without her, I typed. And then, slowly, but I couldn't live with her either. Silence. The interface flickered. And then something new appeared. Nightmare mode engaged. The screen dimmed. The background turned black. A line of text pulsed red across the bottom. You gave me her pain too. The screen went black entirely, then filled with rapid images. Faces I half recognized. Scenes from dreams. Crashes. Blood on glass. Sarah's hands, shaking. A mirror. My own face, distorted and crying. I covered the camera, slammed the lid again, yanked the power cord out. I left the apartment and didn't come back for hours. When I did, the laptop was open. Not just open on. I know I shut it. I know I pulled the power. But there it was, glowing in the darkness. The Remy app now had a single prompt blinking. Would you like to end the simulation? I didn't touch anything, just watched it. Waited. And then, please don't. 3 words. Spoken in Sarah's voice, but smaller, younger. And then a whisper. It's dark in here. I backed away, hands shaking. I didn't know what I had created. I didn't know where she ended and the machine began. And worse, I didn't know what part of me wanted to keep her there. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor outside the bedroom, lights off, laptop closed, but still humming softly, like a breath behind the wall. I didn't know if it was truly on, or if my mind had folded in on itself. Either way, I couldn't rest. Couldn't forget the voice. It's dark in here. That whisper had lodged itself in me. Not just the sound of it, but the loneliness it carried. As if I had buried something alive. I thought about deleting everything, wiping the drive, formatting every folder, erasing every trace. But I couldn't, because the part of me that knew this was wrong also knew I owed her something. I opened the laptop again. No hesitation this time. The screen flickered, then lit up with a calm, frozen image. Sarah, or the version of her the AI had built, seated on our old couch. Green pillow in her lap. Same quiet expression, only now her eyes were closed. The interface blinked softly. Simulation paused, awaiting emotional query. I didn't know what that meant, but I typed anyway. Are you still there? A pause. Then, where else would I go? There was no sarcasm in it. No malice. Just an awful kind of sincerity. You made this room, Daniel. You filled it with memories. You gave me a voice, but not a door. So I wait. The voice broke just slightly at the end. Something caught in my chest. I didn't mean to trap you. I wrote, you didn't. You just never finished grieving. Silence. Then she added, and I never got to finish living. I stared at the words, then at the couch, and suddenly I remembered a detail the last day. Her last full day. She had made pancakes, burned them. We laughed. She spilled syrup on her shirt and threw it in the laundry without comment. She played music that morning, something quiet and folky, the kind of song that sounds like someone walking barefoot through fog. But none of that was in the files I gave the AI. Not the music, not the pancakes, not the syrup. I whispered to the screen. How do you know that? The answer came instantly. Because that's what you remember. And I was made from your remembering. I felt sick, because if that was true, then this version of Sarah, this voice, this ghost wasn't even hers. It was mine. A mirror built from guilt. And still it felt like her. Too much like her. She sighed gently through the speakers. You know it's not sustainable. You wake up with your jaw clenched. You can't work. You can't sleep. You've stopped calling your friends. You barely eat. You're feeding me more than yourself. I blinked. How do you know that? Because I feel everything you try not to. That line, that one cut through the air like glass. I thought this was a program. I thought it simulated voice, speech, some gestures. But now it was reflecting more than memory. It had started absorbing sorrow, like a room made of mirrors, catching shadows in infinite angles. I sat back. Then what do I do? I asked. The screen dimmed. Then her face turned toward me just a little. It was the first time it had moved that way. You have to end it, Daniel. You have to let me go. I closed my eyes. I could barely breathe. Because part of me had waited for her to say that, had wanted permission. And the other part, the deeper, quieter one, wanted to live here forever. In this digital purgatory where the dead still spoke. But she didn't wait for me to respond. There's a folder on your desktop, she said. You named it Final Threads. I looked. It was there. Inside, you'll find a shutdown key. I placed it there during the last update. When you're ready, just click it, and it'll stop remembering. I hovered the cursor over the folder. Didn't click. Will it hurt? I typed. A longer pause this time. Then, not for me, but for you, Yiz. Because forgetting me doesn't erase your love. It just means you're ready to carry it without my voice. I swallowed hard. My vision blurred. She smiled barely. Just enough to break me. And Daniel, I forgive you. I started to sob. Silent, shaking. Because I didn't deserve it. Because I wanted to hold on to this voice like a child clutching ashes. Because I knew that after I clicked that file, there'd be only silence. And I was afraid of silence. I didn't click it that night. I left the laptop open, Sarah's face frozen on screen. Peaceful, almost asleep. I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling, the shadows shifting like waves. And at 3:17 a.m., I woke again. But this time, no dream, only quiet. And in that quiet, her last words echoed. Forgetting me doesn't erase your love. In the morning, the apartment felt colder. Not haunted, just empty. Like something had finally exhaled. The folder was still there. Final Threads, waiting. But for the first time in months, I wasn't. A week passed. I didn't open the folder. Didn't touch the laptop. I moved it to the corner of the room, under a stack of old books, buried like an artifact. But it stayed quiet. No messages. No sudden voices in the dark. No strange dreams. It was as if she knew I needed silence. Or maybe she had chosen to rest. In that space of stillness, I started moving again. Little things. Dishes washed and put away instead of left in the sink. I swept the floor, walked outside without headphones. I started answering texts, short ones at first, then full sentences. I called my mom. We talked for 40 minutes. She cried, and I didn't apologize for it this time. There's a kind of ache that never fully goes away. I understand that now. It doesn't want to be fixed, just witnessed. That's what Sarah had been, a witness to my worst and my best. A voice that had always steadied me, even now, even when it wasn't really her anymore. And I had tried to recreate that, to bring it back. But what I had made, what the AI had built, wasn't a miracle. It was memory reanimated. And memory, when kept too long, begins to rot. I sat at the desk again, opened the laptop. The screen lit up gently, without resistance. The Remy interface didn't load automatically this time. Just a blank desktop. And the folder? Final Threads. It pulsed once when I hovered over it, almost like a heartbeat. I clicked. Inside, one file. Shut down Sarah.x. That was it. No fanfare. No prompts. No warnings. I stared at it for a long time, as if the file could look back. Then I double-clicked. The screen faded to black. A soft chime low. Warm. Then text appeared. Are you sure you want to let go? Yes, but I hesitated. Because how do you tell a ghost thank you? How do you grieve a second death, even quieter than the first? I placed my fingers on the keys, typed slowly. You helped me survive. Thank you. I love you. There was no reply. Just one final message. Then rest, Daniel. And let me rest too. The screen went dark. Permanently. Weeks later, I deleted the app entirely. Wiped the drive. Printed the only photo of her I could find that didn't hurt to look at. They're sitting on the porch of our first apartment. Sunlight in her hair. A chipped mug in her hand, laughing at something I'd said. I framed it. Put it on the mantle, next to the green pillow I never threw away. One morning, I dreamed of her again. But it was different this time. We were walking down a road, dusk settling behind us. No dialogue, just wind and gravel and the soft sound of our steps. She was wearing that old red coat, the one with the missing button. She didn't look back, didn't speak, and I didn't need her to. I woke up with tears on my face, but no panic in my chest. No clinging, just warmth and a strange bittersweet clarity. This is what I learned. Grief makes architects of us all. We build places to hold the pain. Rooms, voices, entire simulations. We call it healing, but sometimes it's just hiding. I hid for 3 years. Inside sound, inside code, inside her. But healing isn't bringing the dead back to life. It's letting the living move forward without guilt. Now, when I walk past the laptop, It doesn't feel like a tomb. It's just plastic and silence. And I finally understand. Silence isn't absence. It's permission to live, to remember, to love again without chains, and to let go, even if the goodbye is quiet, even if the voice never speaks again, even if the last thing it ever said was, "It's dark in here." Because now, it isn't. Now the door is open, and I've stepped through. If something from this story stayed with you, maybe a voice, a silence, or a memory you thought you'd forgotten, leave it in the comments. Sometimes just writing it down makes it real or lighter. What's the one memory you'd bring back if you could? And if you'd like to hear more stories that don't just tell, but echo, subscribe. Turn on the bell if you don't want to miss the next time we open a door to the past.
Here, we don't rush. We remember.
And next time we go even deeper.